Hi guys, you know what we haven't done in a while? A good old reading update. Not a best of list, not a recommendations list, just a good old currently reading video, a good old reading update with all its ups and downs. So, this is what we're doing today. I'm actually reading one of my most anticipated releases of the year right now. It's a brand new release. It's Autocracy Inc. by Anne Applebaum. This is non-fiction, all about how all around the world autocratic rulers, tyrants, and autocratic regimes ensure that they stay in power. How they do so, each one individually, and how they cooperate worldwide. I'm afraid that this is also shaping up to be one of my biggest disappointments of the year. It's a very short book. It's only about 180 pages, and there's not a lot of text on each page. So there isn't a lot of depth to it, and there isn't a lot of nuance to it. It serves well as an introduction, I think, but I expected more from it. But more problematic than the lack of depth, I would say, is that there are some really conspicuous omissions in it, or let's say an Applebaum has some really unfortunate blind spots when it comes to Western regimes. She is either embarrassingly oblivious of some things or she is just disingenuous, which I guess she can afford to be because this very slim book is of a very introductory nature into world politics, and therefore she can assume that she is talking mostly to people who aren't all that well informed on the subject. So, of course, she can afford to omit certain uncomfortable truth. I'm going to talk more about this elsewhere at some other time, but for now, let's just say the gist of it is that an Applebaum isn't going to take up the torch and follow in Noam Chomsky's footsteps anytime soon. I then recently picked up The Ballad of Peckham by Muriel as my commute book because it is so nice and small. However, I think it was the wrong time to pick it up because it is much too similar in tone as well as subject matter to Decline and Fall by Evelyn Waugh, which I read recently. I think I finished this about 2 weeks ago, and I absolutely loved it. It is hilarious. It is the tragic comedic story of Paul Pennyfeather, who, through absolutely no fault of his own, gets expelled from Oxford University, and his life takes, which was quite promising up until that point, but it then takes quite the tumble, quite the dramatic decline and fall towards a really very hard rock bottom. And none of it is really Paul's fault. It is a complete farce, the whole book, and it's just very light-hearted satire of society, capital S society. It was an absolute gem of a palate cleanser to read. And after this, in fact, I added Evelyn Waugh to my bucket list of authors whose whole work I want to read in the course of my life. In fact, I don't know why I didn't put him on that list earlier. I read Brideshead Revisited quite some time ago, at least 15 years ago, loved that one. And then last year or the year before, I think it was last year, I read Put Out More Flags, which was an absolute riot too. Not that Brideshead Revisited was a riot, but this one was. So in this one, another riot, and yeah, Evelyn Waugh has absolutely earned that spot on that bucket list 3 times over. However, so soon after Decline and Fall, it was absolutely not the right time to pick up The Ballad of Peckham. So now I need another commute book, and I just don't know what to pick up because it needs to be small in format, however, not small in font size, because the smaller the font, the harder it gets to read on a moving vehicle. Anyhow, my commute has changed so much in the course of the last couple of days because it used to be the case that I took the bus to a station about 10 minutes away, and then I changed into the tram, the streetcar, and took the streetcar to the city center, and about another 10 minutes, so 20 minutes reading time all in all. But now the station where I got on the streetcar is under construction, so now my commute has turned into a kind of bike and ride where I cycle to another stop of the streetcar, an earlier stop, and take the tram into the city center from there, because I do not want to cycle right into the city center. It's all right in the morning, but in the afternoon, it's just a torture. So I've changed the commute in this manner. However, that takes about a third of my reading time. So right now I'm not sure if I'm even going to continue reading during my commute, during my way to work. Anyhow, that was all hypothetical this morning, and I needed to quickly grab something to read on the train. And so I picked up Spuds and Spurs, which is an anthology of novelettes of gay cowboys. And I picked up what is it called? Judas Steer by Kiernan Kelly in this collection. And well, I don't know what I expected, but the first chapter was really good, and then the second chapter started, and I was done. I don't know what I expected. I bought this used for about €2 or so. So it was an experiment, and right now it looks like the experiment failed. But yeah, moving on. And guys, I need to gush for a moment here about one of my favorite authors. I'm reading her right now. It is Patricia McKillip. She's on that bucket list as well. And the book of hers that I picked up most recently is the book of Atrix Wolfe. And this is really trademark McKillip. Many of her books, not all, some of them are actually high fantasy, epic fantasy even, but a lot of them are set in a world that is, it might not be ours, but it is very recognizably and very familiarly the world of good old fairy tales about kings and queens and princes and princesses and castles and wizards and most of all fairies, or fae rather. And the stakes in these stories are often kind of small in the sense that it is not the whole world, the fate of the world that is at stake, but often it is just one life or the feelings of one particular person, which, of course, from the person's perspective, are very high stakes indeed, but they feel just very intimate, very personal. And while the settings and the casts of these stories are familiar and traditional, these feelings and these personal stakes always feel fresh and never stale, just because of how Patricia McKillip expresses them, because of her writing style, her way of mincing words and mincing feelings into something new. She just always finds new and unconventional and surprising ways to express emotions and experiences. And this freshness and the surprising nature of how she expresses them makes them feel raw and authentic and so believable, and makes them feel, or makes the stories feel so immersive. Just almost every sentence, or at least every paragraph, takes a turn towards the unexpected, takes an unexpected turn of phrase, but it never feels forced or like she's trying too hard to be oh so unconventional and new. It just it just always feels like she just authentically happens to land upon these amazing phrases that express feelings in ways that you've never read before. And the book of Atrix Wolfe is really a very traditional story. It is about a magical spell gone wrong, and the fallout of that connects the Fey world and the human world in kind of a sad way. So a great wizard tries to protect what's dear to him, and in the course of that, inadvertently unleashes a great evil unto the world, the human world, and unbeknownst to him, also the Fey world. And the book is really about the fallout of that. And just listen to this, will you? This is from the prologue, and here the fairy queen is riding through her forest together with her consort and their daughter, and she is about to witness this how this magic spell tragically goes wrong. But before that happens, they have a quiet moment together. And here it says about the fairy queen's daughter: there was a drop of human blood in her and in her father, the queen's consort. It brought both of them visions at times, living dreams of the world beyond the wood. Her father had learned to ignore them, for they meant nothing to him. She, still learning words for her own world, did not make such distinctions. Everything was new, everything spoke to her and had a name. She had not yet learned that something could mean nothing. And this is by far not the most beautiful turn of phrase, not the most poetic turn of phrase in this book. It's just the one that to me was most hard hitting, I admit. I really recommend Patricia A. McKillip to anyone who is looking for a book to read slowly and to really savor, like a bottle of good wine. I'm absolutely loving this one, the book of Atrix Wolfe. I loved In the Forests of Ser, and also the Ballad Seely Head. And my absolute favorite so far is The Bards of Bone Plain, just because in subject matter it is very near and dear to my heart, more so than even her other books. And this, by the way, the book of Atrix Wolfe, is also a really great summer read, because it is all about getting lost in a fairy forest. And what better time to read about a story like this than midsummer, or summer at least. So this is what I'm reading right now. It is the best of times, it is the worst of times, but it's mostly good times right now. I hope your second semester of the year has started in such a promising way as well. I'll see you again very soon. Bye.